he failed to declare the martial law. So that's why there's a high possibility that the government will change, president will change, and he will lose the power. And because of the traditional pattern of the South Korea's president, there's a possibility that he will be in jail, and his wife also. So that's a serious situation for him, I believe.
So, sir, you talked about like the idea of a possibility of jail time and stuff. What impact will the ongoing impeachment movement have on South Korea's democratic stability and the ruling party's position right now?
South Korea's politics is unstable because of the opposition party is stronger than the governmental party in the parliament. But so that's why South Korea cannot work their budget. Uh, they cannot decide the budget. Without budget, anything they cannot do. But at the same time, despite President declared martial law, still South Korea's economy or South Korea's society is stable. So politics is unstable, but society is stable. That is the situation, I believe. So that's why if the president will change, that impact will affect many areas of the South Korean society. But at the same time, still the country itself is relatively stable, I believe.
Okay. You talked about the idea of instability in politics. So, how significant is the growing opposition to President Yoon's leadership within the ruling party?
Opposition is former governmental party and currently relatively popular. So that's why they will take the initiative to form the new government after the president lost power. But this is concerning point in this region indeed, because former governmental party, current opposition party, is well connected with North Korea well, and China also. So and Russia maybe. So that's why you from the U.S. and Japan, the democratic side, the eastern side of this area. Current government is better than the former government or opposition um, parties. So, South Korea's diplomacy will be affected by the changing government.
Yes. Uh,
Yes.
you also you talked about like foreign affairs and all of that and diplomacy, but what about internal issues as well? With the resignation of key ministers, what future steps can South Korea take to restore political order and stability within, the politics of South Korea?
Of course, next target of the opposition party is president himself. But before the president lost the power, people around the president try to take distance from the president. That is just happening. So currently, President Yoon cannot trust the member of the governmental party. Opposition party, of course, they are enemy, but even if the governmental party, they do not have the will to support the president. Then if the governmental party member joins the move of the opposition party, President Yoon will lose the power, lose the status. That is happening just now, and maybe next some days, maybe we will see the result.
Okay. What about the military's role in Yoon's martial law declaration? How has this affected South Korea's form of governance?
Under legally, the army can take relatively bigger power, but this martial law has already removed. Only 6 hours it has happened. So that's why currently army is just waiting and see and follows next government, I think.
So, can we talk about like the idea of the public's rejection of martial law? What does this actually reveal about South Korea's political culture today?
In the past, yes, government has more power, and when the government decide to impose martial law, this is one of the critical to decide the fate of the political situation entirely. But since 1987, democratic regime, democratic political situation is relatively strong in the South Korea. So this martial law was first time since 1987, but compare with the martial law imposing situation before 1987, people do not support this situation, this martial law. And the opposition party and the governmental party both do not support martial law. So president's decision has failed this time. So this means that people believe democracy is very strong, and the member of parliament respect democracy very well, I think.
Sir, you talked about the idea of, the democracy in South Korea being quite strong and quite rigid. But could the turmoil surrounding President Yoon lead to long-term changes in South Korea's political system, or is this something that is not likely to happen?
Yes, that's true, because the Korea's martial law itself is not, of course, common. This is a dangerous move. This is a strange move. Only emergency and only emergency related with external threat affects the situation. That under such kind of situation, president should declare the martial law. But despite there is no such kind of the concrete threat, president declare the martial law and try to go through the budget or other issue for internal politics. That is not a good choice. So that as a democratic country. So that's why the image of the democratic regime in the South Korea or stability of the South Korea is damaged by president's decision. So
Sir, we could also, when you talk about South Korea, there's always a need to talk about North Korean policies as well. Could the crisis provoke a shift in South Korea's approach towards North Korean policies, especially given Pyongyang's silence throughout this matter?
Yeah, this will be the big matter. That is the big matter. There is a high possibility that opposition party will expand their influence in the next government and the next president. In this case, they are China, North Korea, Russia side relatively. And US and Japan is not influential to the next government. And in the South Korea's politics, every time the popular topic is anti-Japan slogan. Japan is the enemy. That is one kind of textbook of the South Korea's education and political situation. If the president use this card, they can rise the popularity. So there's a high possibility that next government choose anti-Japan slogan and Japan South Korea rift will be deepened and U.S. Japan South Korea's trilateral cooperation will not go through. So that such kind of situation we can expect. View from China, view from Russia, view from North Korea. This is a good situation to exploit it. So that's why this changing the government or failure of the martial law of the president Yoon's decision. These are the serious issue diplomatically.
Okay, sir, the opposition has demanded that President Yoon resign. How could this possibly impact national unity? And you spoke a bit about the idea of the next government. Is this something that the next people who are going to hold themselves up for election going to think about, the possibility of keeping the national unity together and keeping the fabric of South Korea together?
A nation itself is integrated, even if the governmental party relatively came from one region and the opposition party came from another region. That is true, but at the same time, there is no serious division in the regions in the South Korea. So South Korea is an integrated country, relatively stable, I believe, but their strategic location is not stable because all of the neighbors surrounded by South Korea and North Korea is great powers, greater than the South Korea or North Korea. So that's why every time this Korean Peninsula is arena of the power game, and greater power shows the influence in the Korean Peninsula. So under such kind of situation, internal politics, this is internal politics in the South Korea, but indeed this is the strategic area. Internal politics is affected by strategic situation.
Okay, can we talk a bit about the United States? The United States is closely monitoring the crisis. How will this affect their diplomatic stance when it comes to South Korea?
Of course, view from the United States, firstly, declares martial law itself is harming the image of the democracy, so that is not good. But at the same time, they worry about diplomatic stance of the South Korean government. If the opposition party win, this is not comfortable for the United States. So, and especially under the Trump administration, the last time the Trump administration sworn in from the 2016 to 2020, that time President Moon Jae-in was South Korea's president, and the current opposition party is supported president. At that time, the United States disliked this government and directly negotiate with North Korea and agreed that South Korea's president was one kind of rubbish. They believe so. That has really happened. Maybe a little unbelievable, but maybe two leaders of the U.S. and North Korea agreed. They agree. South Korea president is not good president. So such kind of situations really happened that time. So it could repeat. It could repeat the same situation under the new Trump administration and same North Korea regime. Both do not respect South Korea's presence. So that time for United States, South Korea is not a reliable partner. So instead of South Korea, they choose Japan should take more bigger role in the security as a frontline country. So that has happened last time.
Yes, but sir, I mean, you talked about like maybe the Americans may see South Korea as not so reliable right now, given these slight changes when it comes to the political system. But aren't they strategic partners in general? Like South Korea is an important partner for the U.S. in Asia. Yes, they may look at other Asian countries as well, including Japan. But South Korea will remain strategic for them, where they have military personnel stationed there as well. This is something that's very important for the U.S. Is that not correct?
Yes, of course. So when the new government sworn in, the United States tried to check and negotiate with them as a first stage, I believe. But there is a possibility that the U.S.-South Korea relation will be deteriorated under the new government, I believe.
Okay, how might the recent martial law episode impact South Korea's long-term political stability? You talked about resilience and democracy, but could this somehow create some sort of, rift or ripple effect in the political system of South Korea?
Firstly, the martial law itself is damage the image of the South Korea. That's true. But at the same time, this time only 6 hours. 6 hours later, Parliament changed the situation and returned to normal. What happened under the democratic situation? Democratic regime in South Korea means that South Korea's democratic regime is working.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's why the
Go
good
ahead.
and bad both are coming.
Okay, sir. We talked a bit about the relationship between South Korea and the U.S., but let's also talk about other international partners. How do you foresee the international community responding to the political turmoil right now in South Korea?
I think many countries, people in the many countries were surprised why South Korea declares martial law this time. Because the reason is internal politics. And yes, budget do not go through, everything is not working. That's true. But at the same time, martial law is legal system to deal with external threat, not internal politics. So that's why everyone surprised, I believe, and so that's why the image of the South Korea was damaged because this is a little bit too attractive for everyone in the world.
Okay, and what about Asian partners for South Korea? Do you think that this may also shift how they handle South Korea in the future?
Yes, because the internal political situation is not stable means that any agreement internationally cannot go through. For example, the South Korea government agree, President Yoon agree with other country, but because of the internal politics, he cannot materialize it. So that's why any agreement is meaningless. So under such kind of situation, countries in the world just ignore or ignore the South Korea's government, and just see and wait result of this turmoil, I believe. So during that time, there is no agreement with South Korea.